Morning, everyone. You're all very welcome. Enda Brady is my name. I'm a television presenter. I'm from Ireland, and I present Roundtable on TRT World. It is an honour to be here in Antalya. And can I just say, we have a stellar, fantastic panel lined up for you all today with some brilliant guests who I'm going to introduce now, and then we will have our conversation. So first of all, let me introduce Binali Yildirim, former Prime Minister of Turkey, and he is now representing the organisation of the Chairman of the Elders. Fantastic to have you with us, Binali Bey. Hoş geldin. We also have Peter Szijjártó, who is here on behalf of Hungary. He is Foreign Affairs and Trade Minister in the Hungarian government. Peter, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
Lazar Comănescu is with us. Lazar represents, after a fantastic career in politics, he represents the Black Sea Economic Cooperation. He is General Secretary of that organization. Lazar, big welcome to you. And finally, it is an honor to have with us His Excellency Hojamairat Geldemiridov, who is Deputy President, the Council of Ministers of Turkmenistan. And I must say, congratulations to Turkmenistan. This year marks 30 years of permanent neutrality for Turkmenistan. And later this year, I'm told that in Ashgabat, they will have their own diplomacy forum to celebrate that landmark achievement. So congratulations to Bliklar. We'll have our discussion now and we'll ask some questions. And as I always say to people, an interview is nothing if we don't learn after each interview. So welcome everyone, hoş geldiniz. Binali Bey, I would like to begin with you by talking about the Middle Corridor and the development road. Just give me your impressions on projects like this, huge, big infrastructure projects, their influence on regional connectivity and stability, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome everybody. It is my great honor to be here to share my view about Middle Corridor and also development role. Actually, these two infrastructure projects very much related with the different region, such as Middle East, South, East, Europe, Balkans, Caucasia, Central Asia, Far East, and Europe. So the most of global trade goes through these corridors, which means this is not only the roads, this is not only infrastructure. When we're talking about these corridors and this geography, we are talking about the culture. We're talking about digitalization. We're talking about harmonization of custom practices. And we're talking about industrial investment, free zones, and more importantly, connecting people, connecting country to country. So this, when we look at the history of these roads, it goes many, many thousand years back. Silk Road and King Road, whatever you call, different name. But when the richness moving towards from east to west, these roads heavily used. That time there was no ship, there was no street transportation, no railway, the only way in land-based roads, which was the Silk Road. Now, today, what we witnessed, and the richness is now turning back from west to east. Because the west, they get rich enough, they are not able to increase their richness. So at the same time, Far East emerging economies, they are very rapidly growing, including OTS, which means Organization of Turkic State. Last decades, in this region, development growth rate over 7%. When you compare global growth, which is around 3%, huge, more than double. So what I am telling is, the multipolar world this is a fact. We don't mention about the one polar or one power which influence all the globe. We have a multipolar, we have a regional powers coming up, OTC, and also the MICTA, and also Shanghai Economic Cooperation Organization, and different, the European Union. Why they set up this kind of organization while we have UN system? Because UN system is not able to solve mankind problem, not able to fix the conflict. They are part of conflict. So that's why we need to find a way to get
Cooperation.
get cooperation. Well, it is when we specifically talk about middle corridor, the middle corridor starts from Far East, mainly in China, goes up to Europe, 7,000 kilometers long. Can you imagine? This 7 kilometers long is not a road, is not a railway. At the same time, both sides of this infrastructure, you will have new settlement, new cities, new industrial plant, and a lot of different kind of establishment which support development and richness. So that's why the road is not itself the means of transport. At the same time, increase economy through the rota from one point to another. OTC members, which are 5 permanent members, Turkey, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan. Also we have Turkmenistan and Hungary, Macaristan, and also Kuzey Kıbrıs, Türk Devleti, gözlemci üye. We have all together
We know that
8
we have
members. What does it mean, OTC? OTC, global GDP around $1.7 trillion. The population altogether 170 million, and the land close to 5 million square kilometers. So we are talking about, and the geography, not only in Asia, also include the Europe. The Turkey has a specific place within this organization, like, you know, we are bridging 2 continents. We are the gate to Europe and also gate to Caucasia, Central Asia, and Far East. The foreign trade from Far East to Europe around 6 billion US dollar. 600 billion, sorry, correct.
600 billion. Yeah.
600 billion US dollar. So how this trade, this volume of cargo, how can be handled? Which way? We have three alternatives actually. One is northern route, which is start Far East all the way to Russia, to Europe, which is longer than the middle corridor. The other one, southern corridor, it goes through Iran and Med Sea and Europe. This is also longer route. The shortest route is middle corridor. It takes about 10-15 days. But not now is it possible to reach 10-15 days? Not possible. Because of the difference between countries' development, infrastructure. You know, the chain, think about the chain.
The links in the chain are important.
Link.
Yeah.
The power of the chain is the weakest link. If the weakest link is not, what power is? That's a chain power is that. So we have to close the gap between our members in terms of infrastructure, in terms of digitalization, in terms of harmonization of regulations, custom crossing, for example, and road fees. And, you know, sometimes some border truck drivers, they have to wait 3-4 days to get visa, enter to the country. So time is money, Chairman. So that's why within OTC, we are working very hard to harmonize the custom formalities, to reach data distant, data connectivity, which means digitalization of custom process.
Yeah.
So this kind of things, the aim of OTC. OTC is working very hard. We set up a target for 2040 vision, but we have at the same time 4 years, the implementation plan. So I think doing so, we will be able to reach more stability in the region, less conflict, and also richness, wealth. If people get wealth and richness, why they are going to fight? That's why middle corridor is the excellent route to handle trade from Far East to in Europe, and also shortest direction. So I think, but maybe a couple of words about development road. Development road is also the part of middle corridor. from the Fav port all through the Iraq reach the Anatolian soil. Either they can go to Caucasus, Central Asia, or Europe. So this is also the part of this middle corridor, which will facilitate trade from Middle East countries to Central Asia, Caucasus, as well as in Southeast Europe.
Teşekkürler Ben Ali Bey. Peter, I'll come to you. So you are Minister for Foreign Affairs and Trade. So it would be remiss of me to not ask you about tariffs. How has your week been, given everything we've seen in the world at the moment? President Trump, tariffs, all of that rhetoric. How is Hungary feeling?
Thank you, first of all, for the invitation. I'm very happy to back to ADF. It's an honor to be on a panel with such distinguished partners, and thank you so much for raising this very actual question. I have to tell you, I'm really surprised that many actors of global politics, of global economy, and many actors in Brussels do behave as this was something surprising. The US presidential elections were held back in November. The campaign was almost a year long. Everybody knew what to expect from both of the candidates. After President Trump won the election, for which we crossed fingers in Hungary, to be honest, so after he won, it was obvious for everyone that he would carry out a political and economic strategy based on patriotism. And in case you are the president of the #1 superpower of the world, and you carry out a patriotic economic strategy, that means that customs, tariffs, are in your toolkit. And if something is in the toolkit, sooner or later, rather sooner, you use them. So therefore, I, to be honest, don't really understand why colleagues in Brussels and anywhere in the world were surprised about what has happened. From the very beginning, we kept on urging the European Commission, Brussels, to start negotiations. And starting negotiations does not mean chit-chat. Starting negotiations with the #1 superpower of the world means that you go there with a serious offer, a serious recommendation, you put it on the table, and you are prepared to negotiate. Of course, we understand there was one very hard obstacle to that, and that was the competition which used to go on in Europe for 8 consecutive years, meaning of which was who can say more nasty things on President Trump to satisfy liberal media. And I understand that those politicians who participated in this competition are not brave enough now to stand up and negotiate with President Trump and his team directly. But apart from this obstacle, we expected the European Commission, bureaucrats in Brussels, being paid thousands or tens of thousands of euros a month to enter into serious negotiations with the US. This did not happen. Although we Hungarians, we have even made a proposal to the European Commission what kind of serious offer should be put on the table with the Americans. And this was the following. You know that the automotive industry is the heart, is the key of both economies, US and Europe. This is the most sensitive industry in both cases. Europe has been applying a 10% tariff on automotive imports from US, while the US did only apply 2.5% tariff on automotive imports from Europe. So our proposal was the following. Let's lower the tariffs applied by the European Union from 10 to 2.5% exactly to the level implemented or applied by the United States. And that would have created a basis for mutual trust and a good basis for negotiations about the future cooperation on tariffs and customs and industrial cooperation. So Unfortunately, European Commission has not made this proposal. And now this is a big mistake, a big leadership mistake committed by the European Commission in Brussels. Okay, what happened? Then we started to urge European Commission not to implement a revenge, not to implement, a revenge customs, counter tariffs, because that would not lead anywhere, that would only lead to escalation, so let's negotiate. Let's negotiate. Contrary to that, decision in Brussels was to implement counter tariffs. Only one member state voted against, which was Hungary. That happened in the morning of Wednesday. Then in the evening of Wednesday, evening in Europe, President Trump announced that he would postpone the implementation for 90 days against those who have not implemented counter tariffs. Then European Commission proposed to withdraw. So my problem here is that the European Commission has committed so many mistakes in these last couple of weeks. Actually, European Commission. The leadership of the European Commission is simply not able to lead European Union, is simply not able to manage major issues, and I think that this has been proved in the recent years during crisis times. Institutions cannot lead during crisis times. Institutions might be able to manage things under very smooth and peaceful circumstances, but when it comes to crisis, when it comes to the necessity of quick decisions, when it comes to the necessity of ability of making good decisions, then it must be persons, it must be leaders. And the European Commission and the leadership of the European Commission proved to fail under these challenges. So we still do hope that an agreement, a negotiated agreement can be reached. This is absolutely our interest. Imagine a landlocked country in the heart of Europe without energy resources, with an export ranking number 34 in the world, while by population we rank on only 95. An export which sometimes reaches 75 to 80% of GDP. Our interest is a negotiated solution. Is the leadership of European Commission able to do that? I have, unfortunately, strong doubts.
Peter, another question for you. Just talk to me then about the relationship between your leader, Viktor Orban, and President Trump, because President Trump has great admiration for Hungary.
Look, may I say that we were Trump well before Trump, because we have been in office since 2010. We won 4 consecutive elections. By European Parliament, it is declared to be a dictatorship, but this is in parentheses. So we have been Trump before Trump, because for the last 15 years, we have been carrying out a patriotic, sovereignist, political and economic strategy. No migration, no war, no gender propaganda. And this is exactly what President Trump has been carrying out in the last couple of months. We are happy that he deliberately and openly goes against the woke ideology. We are happy that he deliberately and openly goes against the global dictatorship of international liberal mainstream, because this liberal mainstream has been putting enormous pressure on us in the last 15 years, because in Brussels it's very complicated to digest that you are a right-wing government, not aligning yourself with liberal mainstream, and on top of that, you are brave enough to be successful. And this is what cannot be digested in Brussels, unfortunately. So with President Trump, my prime minister is very close. They communicate very regularly with each other, and we hope that President Trump is going to be successful in his endeavors, because we think that since he has entered office, the world has become a safer place than before, simply by resuming direct negotiations and direct connection between the United States and Russia. The world has become a safer place. We in Central Europe, we know it very well. In case US and Russia are able to have a good relationship, it's a safer position for us. If they are unable to do so, it's less safe for us. So the fact that they have been in direct contact has itself lowered the risk of escalation of the war in Ukraine. And what we hope for is that President Trump is going to be able to make peace, because we have been living in a neighborhood of a war for more than 3 years now, which has been putting many challenges on us, and we want peace to return to Central Europe. My last sentence, you might remember that in the last 3 years, since the war has broken out, Hungary has consequently represented the position of peace talks and ceasefire. For this position of ours, we have been under tremendous attack by the Democrat administration and in Europe, saying that this is, Putin puppet, propagandist of Kremlin, Russian spy, whatever. Now, everybody in the world speaks about ceasefire and peace talks. Of course, no one says that, as the Hungarians have been saying in the last 3 years, because politics is not the job aiming at credits, for sure.
Peter, this is fascinating. Thank you very much. Lazar, I want to come to you. Just talk to me about the changes then we're seeing in the world economy. You represent Black Sea Economic Cooperation. Give me your impression of the challenges we now have with connectivity, seeing all these changes in the world economy.
Well, thank you very much. But first of all, allow me to start by saying that it's always good to be back in Antalya, and especially in Antalya Diplomacy Forum. And for me personally, I'm not only pleased, but really honored to be part of with the panel with such distinguished members. And more than that, it's a panel dealing with issues that have a lot to do with the organization I have the honor to represent here today. Well, come now to your question. Let me start with a couple of rather more general remarks. In the recent years, and well, COVID, the war in our region and in regions close to ours, and what we witnessed this very recent weeks or months, the so-called, somebody called it trade war. There is a lot of talk about deglobalization, about fragmentation, about decoupling, de-risking, and so on and so on. And in such a context, talk is about how to become less dependent on the outside world. I think that, well, on the substance, this is, in my opinion, not a very sound analysis, because globalization will not only not disappear, but will continue, and I'm afraid will become even stronger, and interdependencies will become even stronger. And this is why, instead of talking about kind of resilience, how to build resilience at the national level and all these type of things, why not to think about building resilient interdependencies? Because with the digitalization, with the information technology, the interdependencies would become even stronger, and that brings me to connectivity. Because when we talk about interdependencies, resilient interdependencies, connectivity is the key. Connectivity, be it in terms of transport and infrastructure, in terms of trade, in terms of energy supply, and I would stress there is another important, let's say, a connectivity dimension, which is not that much talked about. Connectivity on minds. For everybody to understand our irreversible trends in the world. And now, as far as still on the connectivity, I have to say, and I hope everybody will agree with me, we want it or not, when we talk about connectivity in these new developments, where the changes in the, let's say, the location of engines of growth, and if you want to keep, as the president was saying, the president of the Turkey Council, His Excellency, was saying, if you want to provide for good connectivity between Asia and Europe, you want it or not, you have to, you cannot avoid the Black Sea region. Both in terms of trade, both in terms of energy, particularly. And in this context, of course, it's important to develop as many, let's say, routes for connectivity. But here there is a point which I want to stress. It is extremely important that all these initiatives dedicated to strengthen connectivity, be it the Middle Corridor, be it the BRI, be it the Global Gateway, there is a need of thinking about all these initiatives as mutually reinforcing initiatives. I'm afraid that in some aspects, these initiatives were conceived and promoted rather in a competition way. I think that the mutually reinforcing, not competition, has to prevail in developing all these type of connectivity lines. And we in the organization, we are trying to do whatever we can, of course, given the circumstances, including, let's say, the fact that we are still in a period where our region is witnessing a conflict. I hope, as Peter was saying earlier on, I hope this conflict, this war, would end rather sooner than too late. I say too late because otherwise the consequences for the global economy and the economy in our region would be dire. So we've been trying through the time, developing some initiatives as contribution to developing and strengthening these connectivity lines. This is why it was our organization that developed two projects like the motorways of the sea, one is it, and the other one is Black Sea Ring Highway. Of course, there has been quite a lot of work in this respect, but implementation is still away from because of the circumstances which I was referring to. But hopefully, with peace coming back, then we will be able to put flesh on the bones of these initiatives. Secondly, we've been trying also to be as pragmatic as possible. And for example, when you come to transportation, we have developed within the organization a so-called BSEC permit system in order to facilitate the border crossing of merchandises. And 9 of the member states, of the 13 member states of this organization, are participating successfully in this BSEC permit system, which, by the way, now we are working on that in order to digitalize it completely. As we are trying now to make progress in terms of digitalizing the ETR, digitalizing the CMR and so on. So these are the type of things that we are trying to do in our organization as a contribution, as I said, to the strengthening in a complement, mutually reinforcing way, the various connectivity lines. And this is why we put connectivity, including digitalization, in the area as one of the top priorities in the recently adopted BSEC economic agenda, updated, revised BSEC economic agenda for the next decade. And here I have to say, I have to take advantage of having His Excellency here to say that we've been able to come by unanimity in this period of conflict, where 2 countries, especially in the organization, are at very loggerheads. We've been able to adopt this new basic economic agenda under the Turkish chairmanship in office at the end of December 2023. And now we are working closely with the current chairmanship in office of the BSEC, the Azerbaijani chairmanship in office, in order to substantiate. And just one last comment, I don't want to prolong that much the discussion. I specifically mentioned this BSEC economic agenda because it was adopted by unanimity. And that brings me to an extremely important aspect which was touched upon by my friend Peter Sijarto. I think that it is essential, even in the worst situation, when you have countries, actors, which are in very much hostility, keeping ways for dialogue and contact is extremely important in such circumstances as well, if not even more important. And I dare to say that we've been able to have this new economic agenda of the organization adopted exactly thanks to the awareness that beyond, let's say, current times, we have to think about also the day after tomorrow. And instead of building walls, I think it's good to find ways to extend and enlarge connectivity layers. Thank you.
Lazar, thank you very much. Superb. I'd like to bring in Your Excellency Haji Mayrat, Vice President of Turkmenistan. Your Excellency, just talk to me what connectivity and development means from a Turkmen perspective, please.
Köp sağ olun Cenab Reydi. Hormat foruma katnaşçılar, hanımlar ve cenaplar, ilki bilen onun hal Hazreti Türkmenistan'ın prezidenti Serdar Berdimuhamedov'un mehirli salamını ve üstünlükli işlemek babatta arzularını yetirmek isteyen şeyle hem Türkiye Respublikası'nın yoldaşlarına hem de formun işimi yukarı derecede gururlu için minnettarım.
Greetings.
Maslahatlaşan öğelere bağlanışıp anlaştırmak ve sosyal meseleler boyunca
to all participants of the forum, and we would like to thank the Republic of Turkey for their hospitality. The topics you mentioned, connectivity, digitalization, development, are priorities for the entire global community. These aspects not only shape the direction of global changes, but also necessitates the effective collaboration from all countries to achieve common prosperity. Dear forum participants, concerning connectivity, due to its unique geographical location, Turkmenistan has historically served as a bridge linking the East and West and North and South. Amid globalization, our country continues to actively develop cross-border infrastructure projects that foster the integration of regional and global economies. Currently, projects aimed at developing transportation connectivity between Central and South Asia play a key role in the implementation of economic strategies on the Eurasian continent. These initiatives continue to contribute to strengthening the integration of regions and open new opportunities for their economic growth. Here, I would like to provide a few concrete examples. One such project is the Lapis Lazuli corridor. This project links Central Asia with Europe through Afghanistan, Iran, and Turkey. In 2024, the volume of cargo transported through the corridor increased by 25%, highlighting the importance of international trade. Turkmenbaşı International Seaport, the largest in the region, is equipped with modern technologies. The annual cargo turnover at the port has reached 27 million tons, making it an important hub in the Caspian region. The construction of a railway line connecting Turkmenistan with Afghanistan and extending through the ports of Pakistan. At present, a 115-kilometer long railway line built by Turkmen specialists linking Kerki and Arlinköy in Afghanistan is functioning successfully. Additionally, the construction of a 165-kilometer railway that will connect the Turkmen-Afghan border with the city of Herat is under construction. We know that numbers are increasing with these implementations. In this regard, we appeal to the international financial and economic organizations such as the World Trade Organization, the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, the Islamic Development Bank, and the Asian Development Bank with the EBRD, as well as regional structures to actively support international transport projects and participate in strategic planning. Turkmenistan is ready for construction constructive negotiations on these issues and provides all necessary conditions for their participation in the implementation of national and international initiatives. Distinguished forum participants, concerning issues of digitalization, digitalization in the 21st century serves as a key tool for achieving economic efficiency, social accessibility, and sustainable growth. Understanding this trend, Turkmenistan is developing its national strategy for digital transformation. The development of the national telecommunications system, which meets international standards and ensures high-quality information exchange, contributes to strengthening Turkmenistan's role as an important center in the Central Asia region. This system becomes a significant information and communication bridge between the East and West and North and South. In 2007, Turkmenistan had 2 international optical fiber backbone connections from Ashgabat to the city of Gujan in the Islamic Republic of Iran and from Turkmenistan to the village of Alat in the Republic of Uzbekistan. Today, Turkmenistan is connected to 8 international fiber optic backbone lines, including Ashgabat, Gujan, Serhabat, Herat, Kerki, Akina, Turkmenistan, Alat, Karagöz, Kenderli, Serhat, Halal, Kerki, Akina, and Dashaguz and Gulen. In September of last year, construction work began on the Bright Path Arakta fiber optic communication line project using innovative equipment on the Serhabat-Herat section. Commissioning of this communication line will increase the volume of data transmission between our country and neighboring states and additional resources of communication between Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, and improve data transmission speeds between Europe, Asia, and Southeast Asia. Distinguished forum participants, and the last issue of development. Turkmenistan's international strategy is based on its interaction with the current geo-economical trends, active participation in solving pressing issues, and achieve the sustainable development goals. Our country is actively engaged in overcoming crises in environmental and food sectors and contributes to creating fair, equal, and reliable access routes for all people to energy, clean water, and air. Turkmenistan demonstrates an active and responsible position which is expressed in initiative projects in these fields of economy, energy, and sustainable transport. Special attention should be paid to the development of the Global Framework Program for transition to circular economy. We must strive for the transition to circular economy, which involves more national use of resources, minimizing waste, and recycling. Joint efforts in this direction will help create a sustainable economical system capable of adapting to modern challenges. Additionally, Turkmenistan has proposed initiatives for the creation of a global atlas, sustainable transport connectivity, and an alliance aimed at ensuring global energy security and sustainable development. Dear participants, Turkmenistan's neutral status allows it to serve as a reliable link in transport and logistics chains connecting Central Asia with other regions of the world, as well as to effectively develop trade and economic relations. This approach strengthens the country's position as an important partner in creating new opportunities for regional economical development. The current year is particularly significant for Turkmenistan. As it is known, At the initiative of our country, the UN General Assembly adopted a resolution declaring 2025 as the International Year of Peace and Trust. We are confident that peace, trust, equality, mutual benefit should form the basis of economic partnership. At large scale, economic infrastructure, trade, and investment projects can only be successful if based on equality and mutual trust. We are ready to continue working with international organizations and other countries, contributing to the creation of a shared space for peace, prosperity, and mutual understanding. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency. My friends, before we conclude our panel, I have one final question and I want to pose it to Peter. Peter, a lot of Europeans will be asking the question this week, how do we deal with President Trump? Give us your insight in terms of trade. What advice would you give the European Commission? You spoke about them earlier on. Let's end on a positive and tell me what you would like to see European leaders doing.
Well, I hope that mutual respect will return to international politics. I think this is the key, mutual respect. With President Trump returning to power, to office, I think we have a good hope that the basis for international political discussion will shift from what we have experienced in the recent, let's say, decade, which was criticizing each other, judging each other, lecturing those who are not ready to align 110% with mainstream, cornering those who think differently. Let's see how the definitions have been misunderstood. Democracy. In case it was a liberal party to win elections in a country, democracy was in its top form. If there was a right-wing conservative patriotic party winning elections, democracy was immediately in danger. Or freedom of press. If media was not 99.9% liberal in a country, then the media was not considered to be free. So I think that this basis of international politics based on judging, criticizing, and lecturing each other should be transformed to mutual respect. If we are able to talk to each other on the basis of mutual respect, then the world can become a much better place and much safer place than currently. Look, we have always believed in dialogue, in diplomacy, as the name of the forum, in talking to each other. Because maybe it's not the most sophisticated sentence you hear from someone who happens to be a foreign minister, but talking to each other is always better than not talking to each other. And not talking to each other can be extremely dangerous, as we have seen it, unfortunately, in the recent years. So we Hungarians have invested a lot of efforts in the recent 10-15 years to keep the channels of communication open to both major geographic directions. And for this, we have been under very, very heavy attack. Why to talk to the Russians? Why to talk to the Chinese? Why to be observers of the Organization of Turkic States, you know? And I think that with President Trump returning into office, this is over, and keeping channels of communication open comes back. You can speak about that openly, and you're not going to be attacked immediately. So what I would propose to the bureaucrats in Brussels to show respect, to get out of the ivory tower, and forget about European Union being the moral hate, because it's not the case. It was never the case, and it's not going to be the case in the future either. So direct negotiations, communication, keeping channels open, discussing with each other on the basis of mutual respect. I think this is the only way how we can get out from this current extremely challenging situation.
Mutual respect. On that note, we will conclude the panel. I thank you all for your time, for listening to us, and I hope you all enjoyed our panel. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peter, Ben Ali Bey, Lazar, and Hoca Mayrat, teşekkürler. Teşekkürler. We'll get some photographs if that's okay. Team photo.